You ever feel like your ideas are too wild for the world? You're sitting in a meeting. An idea flashes in your mind, bold, strange, maybe even brilliant. But you hesitate. You shrink. You stay quiet. Why? Because deep down, we've all been trained to fear standing out, to fear being too much, too creative, too intense, too different. But what if that fear is exactly what's keeping you average? What if your suppressed creativity isn't just harmless potential, but wasted power? Friedrich Nietzsche didn't see creativity as a hobby or talent. He saw it as a weapon, a dangerous, untamed force that could carve your name into the stone of time, or bury you under the weight of conformity. In a world that rewards obedience, creativity is rebellion, and rebellion is risky. But Nietzsche believed something radical. If you don't use your creativity to shape the world will reshape you into something smaller. This isn't about painting or poetry. This is about survival, about strategy, about becoming the kind of person who doesn't just react to life, but designs it. Ready to unlock your forbidden art? Let's begin. You've been lied to. They told you creativity was soft, harmless, optional. They told you it's for artists, poets, and maybe kids with crayons. Not for you. Not for serious people building careers, startups, or legacies. Nietzsche would laugh at that. To him, creativity wasn't decoration. It was a weapon. A blade sharpened by suffering, honed through self-overcoming. It was the one force strong enough to bend reality instead of just surviving it. This is the truth they never taught you in school. Nietzsche, as entire philosophy, is a battle plan for creative power. Not creativity for applause. Creativity for conquest. At the center is his idea of the will to power, the primal drive in all of us not just to live, but to create meaning, to redefine the rules, to become the author of your own code. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche didn't hand you a philosophy book. He threw you a grenade. He dared you to blow up borrowed values and replace them with your own. He saw true creativity as dangerous because it threatened systems built on control. If you create your own path, you don't need permission, and that makes you powerful. So here's the twist. Every time you censor your boldest idea, every time you default to safe, you're not being wise. You're disarming yourself. Nietzsche believed creativity is the ultimate rebellion. And rebellion, when it's rooted in vision, becomes strategy. That's why creativity, in his eyes, was never just art. It was war. But if creativity is a weapon, why do we keep dropping it before we even draw? Let's be honest. You don't lack ideas. You lack permission. Not from others, but from yourself. Every day your mind generates flashes of brilliance. Ideas that could change your path, shift your income, reshape your relationships. But before you can act, something inside whispers, "That's too risky. That's not who you are. What will people think?" That voice isn't logic. It's fear. And that fear has a name. It's called the psychological herd. Nietzsche warned us about it. He said most people don't think. They obey. They adopt values from the group, from institutions, from dead traditions. They become shadows of other people's expectations and call it being realistic. Psychologically, this plays out as ego protection. Your brain wants safety, not greatness. That's why it panics when you think outside the script. In neuroscience terms, your amygdala fires up. It says, don't rock the boat, don't expose yourself, don't stand out. So you suppress the very thing that could set you free. Your creative instinct. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of you that you've disowned to survive social judgment. Creativity often lives in the shadow because it breaks patterns, defies norms, and threatens belonging. But here's the cost. You trade your voice for comfort, your fire for approval. And comfort is expensive. It costs your evolution. This is why Nietzsche's creativity was so dangerous. He pulled ideas from the abyss. He didn't just write, he bled onto the page. Because for him, creation wasn't performance. It was therapy, warfare, liberation. Take this in. The human mind isn't designed for creativity. It's designed for repetition. That's why school, jobs, and even relationships often feel like loops, safe, structured, dull. Breaking out requires what Nietzsche called transvaluation, the ability to flip your internal values. Ask yourself, do you value safety over self-expression? Do you value praise over originality? Do you value fitting in more than standing out? If yes, then you are not using your mind. Your mind is using you. But it's not your fault. Most systems are designed to kill your originality early. School punishes experimentation. Work punishes mistakes. Even social media rewards sameness. You become algorithmic. You start filtering your own thoughts. You present a version of yourself you think the world wants. A creative hostage dressed in productivity. Think about this. You don't post that first blog idea, not because it isn't good, but because you imagine your coworkers laughing behind your back. You don't pitch your project, not because it lacks value, but because you fear rejection from people who never dared to build anything themselves. That's the hurt in your head. But there's a moment in everyone's life where this system cracks. A breakup, a layoff, a health scare, and suddenly you're face to face with the void. That's when creativity comes knocking. Because when the structure falls, the shadow rises. And in that darkness you find raw material. Rage, grief, longing, shame. Nietzsche knew this well. His most profound writings came during his most painful years. Isolated, sick, misunderstood. He weaponized his suffering, not by escaping it, but by creating through it. Modern psychology now confirms this. Researchers call it post-traumatic growth, the process where people, after crisis, reinvent their identity with more purpose, more depth, more clarity. Creativity is the bridge. But most people never cross it. They distract, numb, conform. Why? Because creativity requires you to see yourself honestly. That's terrifying. It's easier to keep scrolling than to sit in silence with your truth. But here's what changes everything. When you realize your discomfort is data, that anxiety you feel when you want to speak up in a meeting, that's your creativity trying to surface. That irritation when someone says, "Stay in your lane," that's your soul punching the walls of your persona. You are not stuck. You are silenced. And the only way out is to disobey. Not recklessly, but strategically. This is where applied psychology meets Nietzschean fire. Start noticing what sparks your envy. That's often a mirror to your suppressed potential. Start tracking your irrational fears. They often guard your deepest desires. Start listening to the voice beneath the noise, the one that says, "What if you actually did it?" Creativity in this sense is not a skill. It's a rebellion against your internalized programming. And that rebellion begins when you stop asking for permission. You don't need a degree to write. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need a platform to speak truth. You need courage, you need structure, and you need strategy. We'll get to those in the next section. But first, sit with this. The reason your creativity feels dangerous is because it is. It threatens the version of you that plays small. It's not safe. It's sacred. And if you don't use it, you betray it. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Creativity gives you your why. It gives you a path not handed down but carved out. A strategy not downloaded but discovered. A self not inherited but invented. And once you taste that kind of power, you can't go back to coloring inside the lines. There comes a point where you can no longer pretend. You've played the role. You've checked the boxes. You've nodded in meetings, smiled through frustration, swallowed your real voice to keep the peace. But deep down, you know, you were built for something sharper. That quiet restlessness inside you, it's not a flaw, it's your signal. A call to evolve. Nietzsche didn't just talk about becoming, he lived it. Through pain, obscurity, rejection, he shed old identities like snakeskin, and what he discovered wasn't just a deeper self, it was a new kind of human. The Übermensch, the overcomer. This isn't some superhero fantasy, it's a psychological blueprint. To become your next self, you don't need a full life reset. You need a creative strategy for identity reconstruction. Let's break that down. Step 1. Create distance from the old self. You cannot build a future while clinging to a past version of you. Start by identifying beliefs that no longer serve you. Write them out. I need to be liked. I'm not creative. Success means following the rules. Challenge them. Flip them. Ask, who profits when I believe this? You'll often find the answer is, not you. Psychologists call this cognitive reappraisal. You are rewiring your inner story. Step 2. Craft a prototype identity. Think of yourself as a designer. What does your next evolution look like? Sketch it. Not just what they wear or do, but how they think, how they choose, how they recover. Do they hesitate? Or do they move decisively? Do they follow? Or do they architect? Start living into that version, one decision at a time. This is called behavioral design. It works, because the brain doesn't change through theory. It changes through repetition. Imagine your future self as someone who speaks clearly under pressure. Then every day practice one uncomfortable conversation. Record yourself answering hard questions. Join group calls and speak up first. It won't be perfect, but perfection isn't the point. Calibration is. Confidence is a result of exposure, not intention. Every small act is a vote for your future identity. Step 3. Ritualize rebellion. Creativity isn't a mood, it's a ritual. Set a time daily or weekly where you create without permission. It could be writing, pitching ideas, rethinking your systems, or simply sitting in silence with your thoughts. Make it sacred. Why? Because rebellion needs rhythm. Otherwise, the herd pulls you back in. Nietzsche walked alone in the mountains for hours, thinking, constructing, imagining. His genius wasn't random. It was ritualized. So build your own version of that. You don't need the Alps. You need commitment. Maybe it's a 30-minute solo walk each evening. Maybe it's turning off your phone and sketching out wild ideas with no agenda. Protect that space, because in that space, your future self is forged. Step 4. Translate inner fire into outer action. Your power isn't in what you think. It's in what you do. Every time you act from your creative edge, you're rewriting your neural patterns. You're teaching your body that boldness is safe. You're turning fear into fuel. This is neuroplasticity in action. Small, repeated actions carve new grooves in your brain's architecture. Don't underestimate micro moves. One brave conversation. One creative risk. One published piece of work. Each one is a brick. Brick by brick, you build the foundation of a new identity. Momentum builds identity. Identity shapes destiny. This isn't spiritual fluff. It's behavioral psychology. Habits forge the self. Step 5. Master the art of friction. Change hurts. That's the point. Most people avoid tension. Nietzsche leaned into it. Because friction creates fire, and fire forges form. If you're uncomfortable, good. That means the old self is dying. When you hit resistance, don't retreat. Get curious. Ask, what's being threatened here? Often it's just an outdated survival strategy. Your brain thinks you're in danger. You're not. You're just evolving. You don't need to erase fear. You need to walk with it, side by side, until it realizes you're not asking anymore. You're becoming. Step 6. Rebuild your value system. This is the Nietzschean key. He called it revaluation of all values. You cannot transform without redefining what matters. Do you value comfort or courage? Do you value being liked or being true? Do you value safety or self-expression? Audit your values. Kill the ones that belong to someone else, because your actions will always align with your true values. If your value system is borrowed, your life will feel borrowed too. Mini challenge. In your journal, write 3 sentences. 1. I no longer value, because it belongs to a past version of me. 2. I now value, because it aligns with who I'm becoming. 3. My new rule is, if it doesn't support, it doesn't stay. Use this as a filter for decisions, for commitments, for creative projects, because your value system is your compass. Without it, you wander. With it, you create with clarity. Becoming as a daily act, Nietzsche didn't believe in arrival. He believed in the eternal return. That every day you face the same questions. Will I shrink, or will I step? Will I repeat, or will I create? Reinvention isn't one moment. It's 1,000 creative rebellions stitched into your calendar. You become your future self not by dreaming, but by designing. Not by waiting, but by weaponizing. Not by escaping the world, but by reshaping it from within. So start now, with a pen, a thought, a choice. Because the next version of you, it's not found, it's built. And you are the builder. You've made it this far. That already puts you ahead of 99% of people. But now comes the real work. Most videos stop at insight. This one won't. Insight without action is spiritual entertainment. So here's where we go tactical. 5 creative challenges, rooted in Nietzschean philosophy, supported by behavioral psychology, and designed to break you out of mental stagnation. These are not just tasks, they're micro-revolutions. Choose one, do all, just move. Challenge 1. The discomfort ritual. Creativity thrives in discomfort, so build a daily ritual around it. Every day for the next 7 days, do one creative act that makes you uncomfortable, not unsafe, just unfamiliar. Post an idea you've been sitting on. Record a voice memo instead of writing. Say the thing you've been holding back. The goal is not perfection. The goal is exposure. Because when you repeatedly step into discomfort, your brain learns it's survivable. That rewires the fear loop. That's neuroplasticity. And it turns your creativity from a fragile emotion into a forged instinct. Bonus tip: name the ritual. Give it a title like Creative Combat or 7 Days of Fire. Naming rituals makes them sticky. Challenge 2. The shadow extraction. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Nietzsche didn't talk about the shadow, but he lived it. He didn't avoid the dark. He dove into it, pulled something out, and turned it into art. That's your challenge. Each night this week, write for 10 minutes in a shadow journal. Prompt yourself with, what do I envy and why? What parts of myself do I hide in public? Where am I afraid of being judged? This isn't therapy. It's weaponized self-inquiry. Because your creativity lives behind the masks you wear to be accepted. That's where your raw material is. You're not writing for anyone else. This is your darkroom. The place you develop truths no one else sees yet. The key is honesty. Brutal, clear, no filter honesty. You can't create powerfully until you reclaim the parts of yourself you buried to survive. Challenge 3. The 24-hour disruption. Most people aren't stuck. They're just hypnotized by routine. Disruption is a psychological tool. It forces awareness. So for one full day, disrupt your normal patterns. Wake up 2 hours earlier. Eat lunch with 0 screens. Work from a location you've never used before. Ditch one habitual behavior you've never questioned. Why does this work? Because novelty stimulates the hippocampus, increasing cognitive flexibility. This isn't woo-woo, it's neuroscience. Nietzsche believed greatness required self-experimentation. This is that. Controlled rebellion against your own inertia. At the end of the day, reflect. What did I feel when I broke the pattern? What surfaced? What came alive? Challenge 4. The one-person project. Build something for one person only. Yourself. No monetization. No audience. No strategy. Just create something that's honest. Write a manifesto. Design a tool you need. Record a 3-minute voice note of your rawest beliefs. Build a Notion dashboard for your ideal mindset. Nietzsche wrote, "Thus spoke Zarathustra, not to sell, but to speak his deepest truth into the void." That's your job here. This is not about building a product. It's about building identity. Because when you create without needing approval, you recover sovereignty over your own voice. You remember that your creative power doesn't need applause to be real. This one challenge will change how you see yourself more than anything else. Challenge 5. The 30-day creative boundary. Power isn't just what you do, it's what you protect. Set a creative boundary for the next 30 days, something small, specific, and sacred. Examples. No social media before noon. 1 hour of uninterrupted creative time each Sunday. No default yes to any new request. Every yes requires a 24-hour delay. Psychology calls this implementation intention. Nietzsche would call it the will to structure. Because without boundaries, your energy leaks. With boundaries, your vision sharpens. Don't overthink it. Pick one. Make it visible. Stick to it. After 30 days, evaluate. What shifted? What surfaced? What space was created? This is how you train creative discipline. Bonus. Build a momentum tracker. Transformation dies without traction. So track it. Create a simple visual tracker. A grid, a calendar, a checklist. Whatever works for you. Label each row with your chosen challenge. Label each column by day. Every time you complete a task, mark it. That small action reinforces identity. I am someone who finishes. This isn't about performance. It's about proof. Momentum doesn't come from motivation. It comes from visibility. Put the tracker somewhere you can see it. Print it. Pin it. Screenshot it. Make your progress public, even if only to yourself. Because your next identity isn't powered by ideas. It's powered by evidence. You don't need 100 steps. You need 5 moves that matter. Each challenge here is a seed. If planted with intention and watered with action, it will grow roots into your identity. You're not here to consume ideas. You're here to execute identity. Let Nietzsche be your reminder. You were not born to obey patterns. You were born to create new ones. And that creation begins when you stop asking what if and start acting as if. You're already the kind of person who does bold things. Now go prove it. Picture this. You wake up 1 year from now. The world hasn't changed, but you have. You walk into the same rooms, but your presence is undeniable. Not louder, just clearer. Not desperate, just certain. You speak less, but when you do, people listen. Because now you create from truth, not from fear. You used to ask, can I really do this? Now you ask, what happens if I don't? That shift? That's power. And it didn't come from motivation. It came from rebellion. Quiet, deliberate rebellion. Nietzsche said, become who you are. He didn't mean to follow your bliss. He meant to fight for your becoming. The future version of you is not hidden. It's unfinished. And every act of courage, every boundary set, every creative risk, it's a brick in the foundation. This video wasn't just content. It was a challenge. Not to change your whole life overnight, but to reclaim 1 inch of it today. So here's your next move. Comment below. Not just I'm inspired. Go deeper. What part of you are you finally ready to reclaim? Is it your voice, your edge, your fire? Share it. Not for applause, but for accountability. Someone else reading it might need permission to do the same. Then hit subscribe. Not for numbers, for alignment. This channel isn't for passive watching, it's for active becoming. Each video is a tool. Each comment is a signal. Each subscriber is part of a rebellion against creative silence. And if this resonated, share it with someone who forgot what they were capable of. Remind them, creativity isn't a luxury. It's a lifeline. You don't need to be ready. You need to begin. Don't just walk past the mirror, step through it. Because the future isn't waiting. You are the future. And it starts now.